Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. Scott, it is Therapeutic Monday here on the Pewter Report podcast after back-to-back Bucs losses for the first time all season, 27-24 each of the last 2 weeks. This most recent one at the hands of the world champion Kansas City Chiefs, who, they kind of looked like they might be headed back there, Scott. Tony Romo.
Yeah.
At the end of the broadcast, he said, I'm not saying I'd bet on it, but wouldn't surprise me, Jim, if these two quarterbacks are meeting again in Tampa Bay in 2 months. And I said, wow, because the Chiefs look like they're going to be there. The Bucs look like they have some work to do. So we've got a lot to talk about on this show today, Scott, about the offense, the defense, and most importantly, getting to all these fans' questions.
Yeah, exactly. And, the thing is we talked about it, last night in terms of these slow starts for the Buccaneers. And, maybe they should grab a Celsius, John, before kickoff, right? They were down 17-0. And Bruce Arians talked about them having to adjust to the speed of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that'll do the trick. But what do you say, John?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely imperative that you grab one of these, Scott. It's a Therapeutic Monday, and you need something to help get you through the week, get through these little drag times after a late night like we had last night on the podcast, and then doing our work and getting our content up after it. And so we're pumped that all the content on today's podcast is once again brought to you by our friends over at Celsius.
And John,
got a new flavor today, Scott. Peach vibe.
I see that. Yeah, peach. I haven't tried that one yet. I had to go with my good old standby, my favorite, the orange sparkling. And, Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. And the great thing, John, is I talked about last night, is I tried the cola flavor, which was really good. First time I'd ever tried it. And I've had a couple of emails from people. How can I order Celsius? Well, the great thing is we made it super easy. Go to pewterreport.com, click on those Celsius banners. They're going to take you to Amazon, where today it's Cyber Monday. So you probably get those Celsius if you follow that link from pewterreport.com through the website to Amazon. You can probably cash in on some of those Cyber Monday deals for Celsius. And they're going to send you packs, big cases like this that come in several different flavors. And when you do that, you save money because you're buying in bulk. And so if you found a flavor that you like, then buy a case of that. They also have got a sampler pack that allows you to try a whole host of flavors and find out which ones you like best. So check out Amazon's Cyber Monday by going through the pewterreport.com website, clicking on those Celsius banners.
I drank that jackfruit Celsius Heat last night live on the show. I was drinking it. People saw it, and they know it's a pre-workout. It's one of the pre-workout Celsius drinks, and they were like, "What is this clown doing? This is the caffeine virgin guy who doesn't drink any of this stuff, and you're pounding pre-workout energy drink at 9:30 at night. Podcast running to 10:30, 10:40 or whatever it was last night. Well, let me tell you, I was up for about 2 more hours, but I felt pretty exhausted during the whole time. And then I slept like a baby. So, it was great. And I woke up feeling fine. And so this peach vibe, I'm hoping it gets me to the next level today. It tastes great. Actually, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I think I like it even more than the jackfruit right now. And both of them have been very, very pleasant surprises for me as a non-soda, non-caffeine drinker. So we're excited. We're moving in the right direction, Scott.
Absolutely. And I needed this orange Celsius today just because I was dragging after last night's coverage, staying up doing the 2-point conversion column, then having to wake up early, get the kids off to school after Thanksgiving break. So for that afternoon pick-me-up, Celsius really delivered for me today. So, John, let's deliver for these Buccaneer fans.
We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. I just got through watching the TV broadcast. I heard all of the Tony Romo critiques, suggestions, points of topic as it regards to Tom Brady's fit in this Bruce Arians offense. And, the one thing I'll start with, John, is I didn't have any illusions that this was going to be a Super Bowl team in Tampa Bay this year. I predicted 10-6. I thought they would be the runners-up in the NFC South division. Looks like that's definitely going to be the case, especially them getting swept by the Saints. I had every prediction correct in my original preseason predictions except for two. I said they would beat the Rams, they'd lose to the Packers. They did the exact opposite of that. But I had them losing to the Chiefs, and it was a short week, 12 straight weeks of football. This Buccaneer team at 7-5 is right where I expected them to be. And I think I'm going to have to agree with Bruce Arians when he said last night that the one surprise has been maybe the defense not playing as well as he thought it would at this stage of the game. Certainly when you have, John, a new quarterback in Tom Brady, new weapons in Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown. It's going to take some time to gel without a preseason, with the truncated training camp, with no official offseason program outside of Brady gathering a bunch of guys together and working at Berkeley Prep for a couple afternoons and mornings. The offense, it was going to be a work in progress. They brought everybody back on defense. They added Antoine Winfield to the mix, and I'm with Bruce Arians. I thought this defense would be further along than it is right now in terms of clamping down on receivers, not allowing these 400-yard passing days like we saw yesterday at Raymond James Stadium.
Well, what's so bad about it, Scott, is that really lately the ball's not even hitting the ground. I mean, there's no resistance for opposing quarterbacks. They see the Bucs pressures coming early. They're getting the ball out earlier. The underneath coverage has been so poor. I mean, they've barely touched the ball. They're not contesting any of the easy stuff. And then lately they've started to give up tons of long balls too. I mean, so there's nothing this pass defense is doing well, not in the middle of the field, not on the outside. We've all said more press man, and they haven't done it enough to get really good at it, I think, which is part of the problem. But when they've gone to it in games, it's only worked here and there. I mean, it's definitely a better option for them, but I'm just trying to be fair in the way that I've said, Todd Bowles, dude, you don't know what you're doing this season. And I think I've probably been one of the few people that's really critical of Todd Bowles this season and thought that, there were some real issues with this Bucs defense, even from semi early in the season. But, it's not totally on him either, because some of these players have not played very well. I mean, you can't really defend the play of Sean Murphy-Bunting anymore. Like, he is just really not very good at all. And, we don't want to label bust too early in the process ever, but it's hard to see any way that Sean Murphy-Bunting is like a desirable starter for this team going into year 3, which at that point I think would probably make him, a bust. I mean, he's probably a guy that you're not going to want to have out there that'll be competing, I would say, probably for a roster spot going into next season. So it is one of those things that there's kind of levels to it, but defensively, it is hard to see where this team turns around. We said that on the podcast yesterday. I know everybody wants to talk about the offense, and we've got plenty to talk about, and we've got plenty of questions to answer, and we're going to have unbelievable guests on the show over the next 2 shows. Mark Schofield is coming on Wednesday, 4 p.m. live. He's coming on. If you don't know Mark, he's unbelievable on Twitter, breaks down quarterback play all around the league, but he's also a Patriots guy, so he's watched Tom Brady through Brady's entire career. And he was a former quarterback, and so he knows the position very well. He's very articulate in how he will understand and articulate what Brady's seeing, why he's seeing it, what the potential complications could be in a marriage with Arians' offense. And then Greg Cosell, the great Greg Cosell, will be on Thursday to break down Bruce Arians' offense and the receivers and Brady within the midst of that. So we're going to hit this topic heavy and hard over the next couple of days. So you'll get plenty of insight on it, Scott. But on the defensive side of things right now, I think the offense is showing these flashes in every game, and some games have just totally dominated. And it's just, the Panthers game comes to mind. And so it's just kind of, but even like Arian said, it comes down to those 3 drives yesterday where they're moving the ball and they're deep in Chiefs territory, and then one play, and it just seems like, that throws everything off, and it can't overcome those things consistently right now. And so it is kind of a sporadic effort from the Bucs offense right now, but the flashes are there to know that this group can be really good if they get it together.
Yeah, and the thing too is when you're looking at this zone coverage that the Bucs have deployed really for most of the year, John, they've not been playing nearly as much man, and certainly not as much press man as you would think, given the fact that Jamel Dean, who wasn't out there yesterday, but Sean Murphy-Bunting and Carlton Davis certainly are more than capable of playing it. I think that's probably their strong suit, being physical at the line of scrimmage. But against speed receivers like Kansas City has, Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins, Nicole Hardman, those guys with their speed can get into those open spots in zone coverage so quickly. Travis Kelce the same way at tight end. And so it's like, it just seemed to me that they got to their landmark so quickly in that zone coverage. They knew exactly where to go, and they nestled down, presented themselves as targets.
Yep.
And and then it was like the Bucs, all they could do is just make the tackle. They didn't. I mean, aside from a couple of pass breakups, they weren't anywhere close to that. It was watching the receivers catch the ball and then making the tackle. And the problem is when you do that, that's not an aggressive attacking style. That's read and react style defense. And I think that this defense showed what it does best, and its best performance this year, outside of the first quarter, was against the Green Bay Packers when they were aggressive. They were aggressive in terms of their coverages, in terms of their blitzes, in terms of their 4-man rushes. And I thought yesterday, reviewing the tape as I just did before I came on the show, I thought the defensive line did a really good job of pressuring Mahomes with 4 and also when they brought pressure at times. I thought Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul had just as good of a day as I thought they did last night when I was watching the game live. With those guys flipping spots. I want to see Shaq Barrett stay on the right side, and I want to see Jason Pierre-Paul stay on the left side, because I just think that Shaq Barrett matches up better as a blindside rusher coming off of a single block with the left tackle. And I think Jason Pierre-Paul has bigger size and longer arms where he can really stack up better against right tackles than Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
I thought there's times where Shaq Barrett has been consumed by bigger right tackles and engulfed. And I think that Jason Pierre-Paul, with his long limbs and his power and quickness, can negate the right tackles easier.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with this defense. I mean, you talk about the pressure, and I think that's basically the key. If they can get pressure with 4, and they did it pretty well against Kansas City, honestly, especially as the game went on. And if they can do that well against quarterbacks who aren't as good as Patrick Mahomes, I think that's really the only way that this defense kind of rectifies things this season. I mean, if not for that, it would have been ugly again the other day, yesterday. And so, it would have been uglier than the score was. And so I think that's the key. I don't know how much changes coverage wise right now for Todd Bowles' unit. I don't know how much he's going to be able to change. He kind of had a bad approach to the whole season, and it's just kind of been unraveling more and more each and every week. One thing I'll also say, Scott, is that I went back to the tape because it's something you don't notice because they're off screen a lot of the time when you're watching live. But for the first 3 drives of the game, for some reason that only God could possibly understand, Scott, Todd Bowles just rolled out a defense with a single high safety and played Jordan Whitehead down in the box. Didn't matter what the Chiefs were doing personnel-wise. They could be in 11 personnel. They could spread the field. They could go empty. And he was having Jordan Whitehead play down and Antoine Winfield playing high as the high safety and leaving guys one-on-one on the outside. Yeah. It was absolute craziness to me. And the Chiefs didn't do anything in the middle of the field. So everybody wants to see, Antoine Winfield make a play, but he's not even in the area code to make any plays. There was nothing there.
And I thought that the Bucs safeties really let the team down yesterday. I mean, they needed to wear a cape and be superheroes, not sidekicks. And I just thought that the safety play was average at best, probably below average. If I go back and look at the all-22.
But I think that's part of the scheme too, though. I don't think Todd Bowles put him in position to succeid. Like I said, Antoine Winfield's playing single high in the middle of the field. And
it wasn't so much the player's fault as it was the scheme. And and I thought that this was a game where you really have to play too high and not let the safeties beat you. And listen, trust your linebackers, trust your defensive line to stop the run. You don't have to bring an extra safety up. And I know that he liked to match Kelce on Whitehead. Okay, that's fine. Then have him there and go to more of like a dime look. And have Edwards and Winfield back deep as a better option, I guess. But going single high and not having the safety help over the top too many times cost them.
Right. I mean, look at the way the best defenses have played the Colts this season. The Raiders are way worse defensively than the Bucs. But
Chiefs?
the way I was going to say the Raiders are, but the Raiders played the Chiefs tough both times because they took away a lot of the big plays. And so the Chiefs had to kind of string things together, and Mahomes held the ball longer than he normally does. And because of that, there wasn't the shots down the field to take. So they had to string things together a lot more, and they did, obviously, and they scored points, and that's always going to happen with the Chiefs. But there was effective strategies that those teams have used against the Chiefs, and the Bucs just kind of tossed those out. Like, it was just kind of like, nope, we're going to continue to run a heavy single high defense, which again, like, I just think there's so many studies showing us right now that, especially when you stop the run as well as the Bucs stop the run, you don't need a safety playing down in the box. Just stop the run. And if you don't, who cares? The Chiefs literally go into games and they say, we don't even care that much about stopping the run. If you want to run on us, great. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to pass. We're going to take away big plays from you. And they didn't even do that well in this game, by the way. Yeah. Clarify that, because Brady beat a couple of their cover zero blitzes, but that's kind of the strategy. It's like, we're going to force you into a mistake at some point, and our offense just won't miss. And that has to, at some point, the Bucs have to develop that type of strategy defensively. They're way better at stopping the run fundamentally than the Chiefs are. They can do it without Jordan Whitehead, without a safety in the box. You have to start playing more two highs, even in early downs. The Chiefs are passing like 69% of the time on early downs or on first downs right now, something crazy, which is, by the way, Mark will get to later with the Bucs, that the Bucs are horrible at, but they're doing it because everybody's playing with a safety down early against them. The Bucs are playing with a safety down early against the Chiefs, no matter what personnel package the Chiefs are
for no reason.
They're just saying, we're going to throw it on first down because you don't have anybody deep. So it was just too easy for the Chiefs. And Todd Bowles, again, I just feel like he's just getting really outcoached this season, Scott. Like, I like Todd Bowles as a person.
I do too.
Everybody thinks he's a great defensive coordinator, but
and you know what? I think he made the right adjustments, but against good teams, being down 17-0, it's too much to overcome.
Right. And the adjustments are fine. You're right. But when the way he comes out is just, it's.
I just would like to see, and again, this is an approach that you can have at any level, whether it's NFL, college, high school, Pop Warner, where I was a Pop Warner defensive coordinator for a couple of years. And I like to be aggressive and set the tone defensively. Come out and not read and react, but be aggressive and dictate the terms of what you want to do. And there's some instances where he did that. I thought he did that very well against the Broncos. Now, granted, they had Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, a little bit of a difference between Jeff Driscoll and Patrick Mahomes. I get that. But at the same time, though, it's a mentality, and it should be a mentality regardless of who you're playing. And that's what I mean. It's like you need to establish an identity. Like, what is this defense going to be? Is it going to be aggressive? Is it going to be passive? Because it starts off passive too much, and then it slowly drifts towards aggressive. And guess what? They get favorable results. So why not flip the script and start off aggressive, right? I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to give up some big plays. Well, you've already done that being passive. Why not try being aggressive out of the get-go with some press man, with some blitzes, and see what happens? Because I guarantee you, remember that was the storyline, John, to that Packers game, right? Yeah. They kind of came out, they were being too passive. Bowles lights into him, be aggressive, go make some plays, and all of a sudden an avalanche of plays. Jamel Dean, pick six, and off to the races they go, 38 straight points. So I would like to see a better aggressive approach from Bowles early on, where he should dictate the terms of the game to the opposing offense, not read and react to what they're doing necessarily.
Yeah, for sure.
By playing it safe.
Right. Man, this defense, I feel like we could discuss it for so long but at the same time, we've been saying the same things for weeks. It's like different things with the offense. Like, right. That like today we have talk about the fact that they didn't handle pressure very well in some certain situations, and that the hot routes weren't there. And, the use of play action in this game was way down. Other games, it's been other things. The Saints, it was like, we can't get 28 points in one play, like stop throwing all verticals. We talked about drops. We talked about penalties. Defensively, it just seems like we talk about the same stuff all the time. And there were certainly more wrinkles in this one just because of how dynamic the Chiefs were. John, but I do want to hear, because we do have. Go ahead.
I'm seeing something here. I'm just scrolling through some of the comments as you're talking. And this is kind of what I wrote about on Thanksgiving. Like be thankful that this Buccaneer team is a good football team. They're going to make the playoffs this year, right? They're going to get the 10 wins. Hopefully 11, for the Buccaneers. But I love the heightened expectations. It's been a minute, John, since Buccaneer fans are pissed off. Fire the coach at 7-5, right? I mean, like they're staring at a postseason playoff berth unless this team catches COVID collectively, or there's some serious injuries, or they just stubbed their toe. But I don't see it happening. The Buccaneers have beaten good football teams this year. I take that back. Have beaten mediocre football teams. They struggled against the better teams. Against the mediocre
Packers,
teams,
Raiders.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it wasn't pretty, but they beat the Giants. They swept the Panthers, right? So there's some wins there that are coming up in December. But it's like, fire Arians, get new coaches. They're not satisfied with 7-5, and I tell you, it's been, like I said, it's been a minute since I've felt this type of expectations from Bucs fans, because this is the type of expectations that I grew up with in my early days of covering this team. Once Tony Dungy got here and they made the playoffs in '97, expectations through the roof under the John Gruden years too. So it's great to see. At the same time, though, Buc fans, pump the brakes a little bit. This is not a Super Bowl team this year. I've never said they're a Super Bowl team. I know that some of the national media people, even Tony Romo, said that this team's not going to the Super Bowl. Just get it through your heads. It's not meant to be this year. Okay,
man, I'm not ready to get there yet, Scott. But I hear you. Right now, I'd agree with you. But
and I'm just being realistic. Like, I'm not trying to be a
like
pessimistic or a negative Nancy. I'm just trying to set some realistic expectations. And if I'm wrong, great, right? If Scott Reynolds is wrong, fantastic. Love to be wrong for you Buccaneer fans' sake. But the goal this year is to become a playoff team, to get into the postseason, maybe win a game or two. I mean, obviously the goal is to win the whole damn thing. I'm not talking about the team's goal. I'm talking about the realistic expectations for the fans. Get back to the playoffs, somewhere you haven't been in a dozen years, right? Okay, well, that's happening. All right, and we all know, whether it was Carson Palmer, Ben Roethlisberger, Jameis Winston, the quarterback's going to throw a lot of interceptions the first season. And then some of the kinks get worked out in year two, and I think that's going to happen next year. So pump the brakes on the fire Arians train, and let's just let the season play out, right? Yeah. And if this team does underwhelm and miss the playoffs at 9-7 or something, then bring the heat and get the torches and the pitchforks. That's fine. I get it. But right now, 7-5, it's not really cause for alarm. I thought this team would be exactly where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of what you're saying is right. I mean, I wouldn't freak out either. And, you can say fire Arians all you want, but like we need to be realistic. Like, Arians is not getting fired, unless if this team loses their last 4 games against bad teams. I mean, it's probably not going to happen even then, but like, that's the only scenario. So if you don't think that's going to happen, I don't know why we're really talking about that. You know what I mean? It's like, you can want something all you want, but the reality is, at the end of the day, like, Bruce Arians is the head coach, and he's going to be the head coach next season. And that's who Brady's probably going to finish his career with, as the head coach. So we just need to figure out what needs to be better.
The Glaciers, since 1995, and they wanted to get back to the playoffs. They want to get back to the postseason, and if Bruce Arians gets this team to the playoffs, they're not going to fire him. It's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if there was some serious rift between Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. And I don't think that there's a serious rift. I think this is just growing pains. But if there's a serious rift, then maybe, and we'll see. We'll tackle that in the offseason. But Arians isn't going anywhere.
And as negative as we sound sometimes, like, there is growth with the group. Like, look at even some of the concepts that they ran yesterday. I mean, we've seen them, as the season's gone on, mix in other concepts. Yes, Arians gets very impatient and goes back to a ton of shot plays too often in the game. There are still things that need to change. He is not consistent with an approach that is more high percentage for the quarterback. But we've seen, I mean, Mike Renner for Pro Football Focus just wrote a great piece. Every Bucs fan should go over to Pro Football Focus, and hopefully you have a subscription, because their stuff is unbelievable.
Yes,
and he just wrote a great piece. Yeah. Talking about the difficulties right now in Bruce Arians' offense. And he compared it even to past offenses that Bruce Arians has run. And this Bucs offense is still putting up points. Like, Brady's he's way better in turnovers. I was just looking at Jameis's stats from last year, not to compare Brady and Jameis, because that's ridiculous. There's not a comparison, but to get an idea of kind of like where the Bucs are at. Jameis took 47 sacks last year. Like, Brady's taking 16. Fans don't even understand how big of a deal that is. Like, Brady took 1 sack yesterday against a defense that blitzed all game because he processed and got the ball out. Like, Brady's thrown 11 picks, and a couple of those haven't even been his fault. I mean, Jameis threw 30 picks. How many times he fumbled? Brady has one lost fumble this season. It was Rojo's fault when he stuck the ball in Rojo's belly and Rojo dropped it in week 2 or whatever. Like, we're talking about a team that is, I mean, red zone. Look at the Bucs in the red zone this year. Like, they've had like 3 goal-to-go opportunities where they had to settle for field goals. Like, I mean, this is a team that has scored consistently in the red zone. You know, when they've used play action, Brady's been unbelievable at it. Like, there are so many positives that show growth from this year to this year from last year. And fans just, you know, are talking all about like, oh, the passing yards aren't as high. Well, the passing yards aren't as high because they're not getting killed every game like they were.
Right. Yeah. They don't have to, you know, they're not in a position where they have to throw the ball for all 4 quarters. They kind of did yesterday, but you know, here's the thing. Brady is on pace for 4,400 yards. And okay, it's not 5,100 yards, but what did 5,100 yards get the Buccaneers last year? It got 2 receivers in the Pro Bowl and 7 and 9. And right now, Brady's on pace to throw for 37 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Okay, last year, Winston threw 33 touchdowns, so that's 4 more, and 30 interceptions, 16 more interceptions than Brady's on pace to throw for. And you factor in the 3 touchdowns Brady has rushing, and he might get another 1 or 2, then you're at 40 touchdowns combined for Tom Brady, which is a franchise record. And here's another thing, too. You're throwing out some good stats, John. Tom Brady has been sacked 16 times this year. Jameis Winston was sacked 47 times last year. And the coaches, I'm not going to name who, but one of my sources told me that Winston accounted for 15 of those by hanging on to the ball too long. So,
and that's probably being nice because that's probably being nice because pressure is on quarterbacks a lot of the time. Like, but anyway, I digress.
And so here's one last thing I'll throw in there. I liked Renner's analysis when it came to, you know, what Carson Palmer did in 2015, the year they went 13-3, and also how Tom Brady has fared in the Bruce Arians offense too. The one key thing that I'll point out was Carson Palmer. His listed weight was 235, just a bigger quarterback than Tom Brady, who's 225. And Carson Palmer would hang in the pocket. At Buccaneer fans, you might remember Brad Johnson, the bull. The bull would hang in the pocket, right? He'd take the hit, stand in there, and deliver. And that's one thing Brady doesn't like to do. He does not like to get hit. To his credit, he stood in there and took the hit on the 44-yard catch on 3rd and 15 to Chris Godwin. At the same time, he saw the blitzer, 35, coming off the edge, and kind of turned away and threw the ball and it was underthrown on the Scotty Miller interception. So Carson Palmer, 10 pounds bigger. He would stick in the pocket, hang in there longer, and that's what kind of Bruce Arians is used to, right? Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, Carson Palmer, pocket passers hanging in the pocket, and Brady will do that, but he's not going to do it probably as much as Arians wants him to because he's a self-preservation at age 43.
And Carson Palmer was hurt a lot. So, I mean, you take your poison.
Andrew Luck was hurt a lot. And Ben Roethlisberger's been dinged, even though he's, 250 or so? I mean, he's a big boy.
I mean, there are so many. I mean, it's hard to know where to start sometimes when you get on Twitter after a Bucs game and you start to see the total misconception. I mean, Brady has played in the league for 21 years now. Like, he has been on national TV a million times. And people who cover this game for a living have no idea who he is as a quarterback. It boggles my mind, Scott, that they can watch Tom Brady play football and say, oh, he's this, or, oh, he loves to dink and dunk. This guy is leading the league in attempts of 20-plus yards in the air down the field. Like, he is aggressive to a fault. Like, I don't understand.
Just ask Randy Moss how dink and dunk Tom Brady was.
Yeah, like, because Tom Brady knows when to check down and doesn't throw it into double coverage all the time, he's dink and dunk. But then when he does throw it deep and it gets picked off, everybody wants him to throw underneath. Oh, yeah, this guy wide open underneath. Like, Brady's getting it's like it's one or the other. Like, who is Brady to these people? And the other thing I can't handle with the Brady narratives is Brady it's Brady and Arians offense. Like, is Brady a fit for Arians offense? It's just asking completely the wrong question. You and I have talked about this, Scott, and I have it written down as an article that I'll probably write at some point this season. So sneak peek for all the fans that are listening or watching this show. Brady is the quarterback that Arians needs, but we don't know whether he's the quarterback Arians wants right now. Arians has to decide to change some of the things that he does, but that doesn't have anything to do with Brady. That has to do with the nature of the NFL today. It doesn't matter who his quarterback is. There's a reason why we haven't been talking about Bruce Arians in the Super Bowl before, and there are talented aspects of his offense. No doubt about it. He's had tons of talented players almost everywhere he's gone. Cardinals teams were loaded. He had Andrew Luck. He had Ben Roethlisberger and all his weapons in Pittsburgh. He's had great talent. He knows how to get receivers and fit them into an offense and make it work. There's no doubt he has gifts as a coach. But the problem is Arians' offense not becoming more modern. It doesn't matter who's running his offense. Everybody's like, Tom Brady's not a fit. Carson Palmer, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, all of those guys played worse in Bruce Arians' offense than Tom Brady has played this season. I'm not saying Tom Brady's been perfect, but I'm just saying Tom Brady is closer to what Bruce Arians needs in his offense to be able to get past the point of being good and to be great. But the problem is Bruce Arians has to change what he's doing to be able to be more effective, not for Tom Brady, but just for success in the NFL.
And not wholesale changes, John. Tweaks, like a little innovative tweaks, right? He's got to just change a couple of little things. It's not scrap the entire offense or import the New England offense down here. I mean, guess what? The New England offense last year, Tom Brady doesn't want any part of that. Okay? Where it was Julian Edelman and nobody else. Tom Brady doesn't want that. It's a big reason why he's down here in Tampa. Okay? So it's not that Tom Brady needs the Patriots plays. No, because the Patriots offense, when Brady threw for 50 touchdowns and had Randy Moss catching 23 of them, was far different than the offense he played in last year in New England, right? So I'm of the opinion that I would like to see what Tom Brady does after a full 16-plus games this season and a full off season, maybe something like OTAs, mini camps. Hopefully COVID after this winter will be long gone, or we'll have vaccines or therapeutics, or it will be yesterday's news at some point next year. I'd like to see what they can do, because the off season's when you work on your game and there's no game plan, right? It's where you really get to tinker with the playbook. Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich and Clyde Christensen and Tom Moore and Tom Brady did not have the opportunity to do that until August.
Right.
Okay. And we're still seeing the growing pains.
Yep.
And by the way, during these growing pains, you got a 7-5 football team. Oh my God, John, I'm being so positive today. Holy crap, man. There must be like silver linings behind me or something.
Hey, we've ripped plenty. I don't think anybody can knock us for that.
But Brady's thrown for 3,300 yards. He's completing nearly 65% of his passes.
Right.
He's
5 percentile points more than Jameis last season.
Yes, he's got 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's on pace, like I said, for 40. He's on pace for 37 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, right, and 4,400 yards. So. Right. Let's just not that I want to hit the fast forward button. I want to see how the season plays out and see if this team can get hot and better, and see if this bye week helps the coaches game plan better. And maybe they get hot in December, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this team goes to the Super Bowl. But I want to see what happens in 2021, because I think that's the year that fans' expectations can get raised up.
Yeah, I mean, and I still think this group is so talented that I'm not ruling out them hitting their stride over the next month or so and working some things out. Would I bet on them to win the Super Bowl right now? No, but I've talked about it before. The nature of the NFC right now, Scott, is it's just up in the air. Like, there's just not a team that you're like, oh man, like the Packers look like the best team. I think the Bucs could beat the Packers. It is about matchups. I've said that. I don't think the Bucs match up great with other teams, but we don't even know what's going on with Drew Brees right now. We don't know what his status is going to be. So there's just a lot up in the air. So I just want to see how the final month plays out, see who gets hot. We've had a different top team in the NFC almost every month. So I just think there's a lot to be determined before we say that. But I will say this. Here's why I think the offense can have more success moving forward. We've talked a lot about the fact that in first years, Arians quarterbacks have done some things and struggled with some things. Brady has struggled less with those things than other quarterbacks before in Arians offense in their first years. Just look at Jameis last year as an example, and also Carson Palmer. But part of the thing that would help make this better for the Bucs offense. We've talked about these two things a good bit, but Mike Renner does a great job of pointing them out. Play action. Palmer utilized play action fakes on about 20% of his dropbacks in 2015. At the time, that was about league-wide average. Brady's been about 18.6% this year. The league-wide average has gone up to 25.6%.
Right.
So Brady is below what used to be a thing for the Arians offense, but the league-wide average has gone up significantly. So we're talking about they're way under the average, 7 percentile points under the average for play action. Brady has been a monster on play action, and just in play action in general, the numbers are ridiculous. I mean, the league-wide yards per attempt on play action goes from 7.2 without it to 8.6 with it. The average passer rating jumps by 10 points. Even Brady has gone from 115 passer rating and 9.3 yards per attempt with play action this year to a 90.2 and 6.2 yards per attempt without it. So, I mean, he is putting up unbelievable numbers off play action, and they did it 5 times a game against the Chiefs.
Right.
Like, they've done it in games where they haven't even run the football yet. They've done it on first down. So what is this whole, we have to establish the run? You've done it in every game that you've been struggling to run the football in, and you've hit big plays with it. So it doesn't make any sense. The other area that we got to talk about, Scott, first down. We've talked about how bad they've been on first down, but Mike does a great job of putting some numbers to it. The Bucs are one of the run heaviest teams. Yeah, they're one of the run heaviest teams on first downs. What did we just say about the Chiefs? 67%. That's what the number is for the Chiefs. That's what they're throwing it at right now. The Bucs are at 50.6% in the first 3 quarters of a game. So we're not skewing it with blowouts and passing to catch just to catch up. The first 3 quarters, the Bucs are just not throwing it on first down enough. So it's making their passing game harder because they get into second and third and long, and everybody can play more comfortable coverages. The whole success with the Chiefs was what? They were throwing the ball down the field because the Bucs are in a single high coverage, and they have this extra guy in the box, so we're going to throw it down the field on them in those downs. And when they get out of those looks, then we'll run it. They ran it more as the game went on. They had actually better success than we probably have talked about running the football because they were just in optimal box counts for those situations. Bucs have to change those 2 things. They could change those 2 things tomorrow. They have great play action plays. Just call more. They could go out and pass on more first downs and be successful. So those 2 things could change. They flashed all those things at times this year. Just hasn't been enough to move the offense in the direction they need to go.
I agree. Let's get to some questions, John. We got some great participation, great comments today. More comments than questions. We love the therapy session here. It's the day after podcast, and that's what we're here for.
You can hear us venting it out right now. Yeah. These Celsius drinks might be helping. Give us some energy.
Exactly. Team of afflictions. Do you think the Bucs will take the bye week to self-evaluate and create a more Brady-friendly scheme featuring some more underneath crossers, quick passes, etc.? It's interesting because I think, John, they've incorporated over the last couple of weeks more mesh concepts, right? More crossing routes underneath. I've seen that where I didn't see that as much before. Maybe I wasn't looking for it, but maybe it wasn't as obvious, but I've seen that now. So yes, I think that this playbook will continue to evolve. And I think that you're going to see, the bye week that, listen, if the Bucs don't come out and beat the Vikings and I think beat them soundly, then you can really hit the panic button.
Oh yeah. That's a must-win game
for sure. Yeah. But I think they're going to beat the Vikings. They're going to have an extra week to take a look at them. We'll see who Dalvin Cook's status is for this weekend's game, and then if he's certainly available for the Bucs game 2 weeks from now. But yeah, I think that this offense is going to continue to evolve and Brady is going to want to be more comfortable in it. Listen, the one thing, this goes back to the Quarterback Whisperer book that I read that Bruce Arians wrote. It's about himself. It's an autobiography. And he loves getting the input from quarterbacks. He loves the collaboration. He is not a dictator that says, you will run these plays.
Yeah, I agree.
And Brady will speak his mind. He is not a church mouse. He will let you know what he wants to run. So I think that the bye week, there will be some self-scouting. John, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think, too, that play calling and play design are 2 different things. I think fans need to kind of understand that, too. Like, I don't think the Bucs play calling has been a massive issue this season. Almost every team in the league outside of like the Chiefs and maybe the 49ers, will complain probably about play calling at times. Like they disagree with this call. I think that that's normal. I don't think play calling is the end of the world for the Bucs right now. They have enough talent and they have enough everything else going in their favor to be able to work with the occasional bad play call. Play design is where I think that they lose me. Play design goes back to conceptually how your offense is built. They aren't built with enough play action. They aren't built, they are running the ball a ton on first down. Their run scheme, I've said, is very predictable. They're very simple in their run scheme. They don't offer a lot of things for defenses to think about. That's okay if you're built around the pass, which they are, but again, that requires passing more on early downs to get defenses out of situations where they say, oh, they're definitely going to run the ball. We can line up, we can stop the run on early downs. We know they're going to throw the ball on later downs. They just have to be they have to be less predictable in the way that they go about it. And it's okay that their scheme might be a little bit simpler, but there are ways that they design the offense right now in Tampa Bay that need to change and need to tweak and adapt in order to be at their peak success. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't still going to do things. That doesn't mean that they can't take shots down the field. I've seen fans say, stop taking shots down the field. No, you take shots down the field. That's still part of what you do. I mean, Brady is tied right now for the third most deep ball completions in the league, and there's a decent chance that he is going to have the most deep ball completions in the NFL by the time this season's done. He's a couple behind 3 behind Kirk Cousins and 4 behind Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see obviously how they finish out the season, but he's probably going to be one of the best deep ball passers in terms of completions in the NFL right now. And the accuracy things fell apart just a little bit because of miscommunications. And so, one of the things, and I see Terrence Davis asking about it, what do you think about Romo saying he saw the offense evolve yesterday? Yes, I get what Romo's saying, and I do think at times that was definitely true. They also did some really weird things yesterday that I don't think worked at all. A couple times they went spread the field, empty set, and they had 3 tight ends on the field. Maybe with O.J. Howard, but with Anthony Auclair, I'm just not really sure what the strategy was there. I mean, that third down that Cam Brate dropped that went through his hands, they've got 3 tight ends to one side of the field, and they've got Leonard Fournette split out wide with Mike Evans in the slot to the right. I mean, it's a bizarre personnel deployment, and nothing worked on the concepts either.
And John, but we've seen that too. We've seen Cameron Brate get put into position at the end of games running vertical routes. We saw that against the Bears. We saw that against the Rams. That led to 2 Tom Brady interceptions. And I love Cameron Brate. I don't want him in those situations that far down the field. That's not his. That's not where he's a winnable matchup.
Yeah, that's the gripe I would have with Leftwich more than anything else is I don't always think he understands. Right. Personnel deployment is important. You have to scout your players and put them in the best positions to succeed. When Leonard Fournette's getting 2 touches on your most important series of the game on 1st and goal from the 5, you've misused your personnel. You haven't self-scouted your own guys well enough to achieve the type of success you need to. So Romo saying the offense needs to evolve. He's talking about it from a schematic standpoint. My issues with Leftwich are more from a personnel standpoint, but schematically, I think Arians or Romo's right. There's been flashes of that throughout most games this season. So there's good things. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think that they've moved towards some good things. It's been slow and it hasn't been consistent. And so that's where you kind of have to say, okay, but again, 5 play action passes, that's one of their lowest marks of the season yesterday. That could have been way more effective for them. Right. And I know motion has been a big conversation, and I saw some people mentioning motion. Mm-hmm. I know Dan Orlovsky has talked a lot about motion. I would like to differentiate the 2 types of motion. So the Bucs do a lot of motion before the snap to identify coverages. I think Romo even yesterday on the broadcast was saying, here's a motion finally, later in the game. I don't think that was the first one in that game. And also the Bucs do plenty of motion to identify coverage before the snap. A lot of the time it is kind of a tell for defenses. Okay, they could be passing the ball here and not running the ball. It's a pretty strong indicator of that. And so it helps prepare them a little bit too. There is some give and take to motion. The Bucs are, motion before the snap. I still like it because I think even if teams know you're going to pass, you can still be really effective at it. Not so much with running the ball. So I think that that's still important. But I also think that motion at the snap is a different thing. That, unlike play action and passing more on first down, is not simply something you can just put in the offense right now. Maybe over the offseason that can be something they use more. I would like to see that, but it's difficult to ask that. It's such a timing-based and concept-based thing that I think you're going to have to work on that in the offseason if you want motion at the snap to be a part of what they do.
Right. And it's interesting, right? Because we can kind of read the tea leaves a little bit. We can read between the lines. And, Tony Romo probably had a conversation with Tom Brady, right? I mean, that I would assume, and I'm making an assumption here, that's how Brady works. When he wants something out, he doesn't come out and say it, right? He can be very brief in his press conferences and very general and not very specific, John. We've seen that firsthand on these Zoom calls. But I'm guessing that the information that Tony Romo got about Tom Brady probably came from a good source, right? And so we heard Romo kind of state that case over and over again. Hey, Brady would like to have some more motion. So I went and asked Bruce Arians point blank today if Tom Brady has specifically asked for more motion in the offense to help determine coverage. And Brady, or I should say Arians, said, that's the motion we use. We do it as much as he wants. So somebody's not telling the truth, is what I'm thinking here.
Well, I think
maybe that gets worked out during the bye week.
Right. Maybe. I don't think the Patriots had a ton of motion at the snap, unless I'm forgetting something. They had lots of pre-snap motion, but so I'm not sure. I don't know what the exact disconnect would be there, but I think he's probably right in saying that a lot of older quarterbacks don't like a lot of motion at the snap. I think it took Ben Roethlisberger a long time to come around to it in Pittsburgh. He mentioned Peyton Manning.
I like the pre-snap motion because it gives you that clue. Are they in man or zone? It's just
I like that. Right. And I like the motion at the snap because I think it gives you some easy completions. I think that's a benefit of it. And we've seen that with offenses that use it. Right. But like I said, it takes, you have to put it in the off season. Like it's a lot, it's timing and it's a lot of rhythm stuff. And so it would be a big change for their group.
Dialing this up for you, William Rankins. When are we going to bench Donovan Smith? That we look much different without him. I'm going to start off by saying it's not going to happen this year. Donovan Smith is your left tackle as long as he has two legs and can get on the field. Take it away, John.
I've become the Donovan Smith defender by default, I think, in Bucs media, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of Bucs media people that don't say anything. And then there's Mark.
Right.
Mark's not a big Donovan Smith guy, but he did come on and defend him yesterday on the show.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, Donovan Smith is probably about an average starting left tackle in the NFL. He plays well for a lot of a game, and then he has a couple moments that technique lapses get him killed, and it looks bad. And fans really only notice offensive linemen when they have a bad play. And so because of that, he's gained a reputation for some things that fairly, that for being a little bit sloppy technically, if that's fair, for laziness and bad effort, that's not fair. And that's not true about Donovan Smith. And so, we just need to kind of differentiate that. I do hate when fans get on Twitter and tag him like every time there's a play posted somewhere that, just go after him. It's just ridiculous. It shouldn't happen. Hopefully nobody here does that.
They're expecting like the Secret Service, right? Where you can't make any mistakes, right? Like one mistake and it could be fatal, right? If you're the Secret Service. And I get that, but nobody's perfect on the offensive line, on any offensive line anywhere.
And do we really think Donovan Smith's is we going to list him as the problem for this offense this year? I mean, come on,
no, and he's an absolute gamer. He deserves credit for going out there and playing pretty well, especially with a bad wheel. So we've got Chris, who says, "How do you think that Khalil Davis played in his first game? I feel I saw him make some impact when I saw him in," and I would agree. I've kind of been curious as to why he hasn't received a handful of snaps here and there, especially when you got an older guy like Ndamukong Suh. Maybe give him a play or two off here and there and feed Khalil Davis 7 to 8 snaps per game just to get his feet wet. I mean, here we are. We're into December now as of tomorrow. And Khalil Davis, who I thought flashed during training camp, obviously no preseason, but we haven't seen him in the action. And and going forward, I don't know that Ndamukong Suh is going to be in Tampa next year. So you're going to need some defensive tackles to rally for this team and step in there. And you're not going to know if Khalil Davis can be an answer or part of the answer because you haven't played him. So maybe he does get some more snaps here down the stretch. John, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I really need to look at Khalil Davis on the All-22 to get a better idea how his one-on-one matchups went. Pro Football Focus graded him fairly poorly, but again, he didn't play like a ton of snaps, and he had some good pass rush. I think his pass rush grade was a little bit higher than his run defense grade, which is probably really what they need from him. I think most of his plays came on passing downs, if I'm remembering right. So it's probably the larger sample size goes in that favor. So I just need to kind of see him exclusively focus on him. Hard to see some of those things from the broadcast. But when I did notice him on the broadcast, I thought he was good. I mean, he got 1 or 2 pressures in the game and looked like he was a little bit disruptive. So I'm hoping that if this week that I can get a look at those 20 some snaps and maybe have something written up on him for the bye week, just kind of breaking down how he did. Because I think that there's potential there. And like you said, they need to look at options. And that's really what playing him was about. It was about, can we find another option in passing downs, because we really need that. And he might be ready. Douglas, is this a John and Scott venting pod PR? Is this a Q&A? Answer the question and move on to the next. Fans want answers. I heard all this from you two last night. Well, thanks, Doug. We appreciate you jumping on the show.
Okay. Well, here's your question, Douglas. Can you ask Brady why he isn't asking for more motion? Yes. If he stays at the podium long enough, we will. I believe he answered questions from 3 people last night, maybe 4, before saying that's a wrap, folks. Jenna Lane asked the question about the possible coaching Tom Brady rift, and Tom said thank you, good night, so if he stays there, I'll let you know something here. We typically get, this is just some inside poker here for you Buccaneer fans. We typically get 2 questions when we're called on, when we ask most players and Bruce Arians. So that's why you hear Rick Stroud, myself, John Ledyard, Mark Cook, Greg Allman, Jenna Lane, whoever it is. We get a chance to ask 2 questions during our time, because that's our opportunity for a follow-up too. If we didn't like the answer, or if we wanted to expand on something that coach or the players say. With Tom Brady, we're allowed 1 question. I tried a couple weeks ago, John, to get 3 questions in, even 2. And Tom said, pick one, right? So that's the rules that Tom Brady and the PR staff have. And we get typically no more than 10 minutes, which is typically less than other players. Some players will go 12 minutes with us. Brady is typically 6 to 10 minutes tops. And so, yes, when we talk to Tom next, and it won't be this week because it's the bye week, we'll bookmark this and we'll ask him how he feels about motion, since that's kind of the soup du jour.
Yeah. So I thought that was a great answer, Scott, but apparently Doug doesn't like that one either. That's the comment you address, he said. So apparently he didn't want Doug you need a Celsius, man. Like, get one of these. Therapeutic Mondays being hard on Doug. He must have had the Bucs when he was betting over a.
Well, here's the problem. We're seeing a lot of comments. When you're asking questions, include the question mark. That helps us determine which question you're asking. Again, we've had a ton of comments today, and it's great. We love reading them. We posted some. If you have specific questions, we're here to answer them. So ask it with a question mark, and we'll come up with our answers. In the meantime, John, I think now would be a great time to segue right into Briar Greaves.
That's right. There are still some hurricanes forming in the Gulf, and don't wait to review your insurance policies. Call Briar Greaves Insurance, which is family-owned and has served the greater Tampa Bay area for 30 years for your home, auto, boat, life, commercial, and flood insurance needs. A lot of homeowner companies are canceling or not renewing policies, leaving Florida, or increasing premiums significantly. Call Briar Greaves and speak directly to Briar or Sam for a personalized touch for information on the best rates. The folks at Briar Greaves Insurance are big fans of the Buccaneers and proud sponsors of the Pewter Report podcast on pewterreport.com. Visit briargreavesinsurance.com or call 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166 today. You switched over to Briar Greaves recently, Scott.
I did.
And
I'm thrilled,
wonderful results.
Happy, saved some money, got great insurance rates and great coverage. Can't recommend them enough. So this is a personal testimonial. I tell you, if they weren't my insurance company, but Mark Cook twisted my arm, give them a call, man. They're supporting Pewter Report. And so I said, okay, I'm going to call them. But, if they don't give me the good news that I want, I'm not necessarily gonna switch them just because they're an advertiser. But you know what, John? I called, talked to Briar, talked to Sam, and they presented me with the best rates and coverage, and I made it really easy for me to switch. There's no doubt about it. So, okay, so let's have some rapid fire answers here as we round out the show. Terrence Davis, again, can the Bucs win a Super Bowl with the staff? John, what do you think?
Can they? Yes. I'm not ready to say will they. And I know that fans are going, oh, cop out. I'm not ready to say that. We just don't know. There's too much that can change between now and next year.
4 more games too this year.
Right, and 4 more games this year. I wouldn't bet on them to win the Super Bowl this year, but I would have said that before the year too. I think it's a lot harder. And Bruce Arians said this, and although I think a lot of time he's just spitting BS in his pressers, to be honest, I literally think that he was spot on when he said it's not just about putting a bunch of names together. Like, people don't understand. Like, people look at it and they're just like, wow, it's a joke. Like, does Brady need more weapons? Like, it's not even about that. Like look at what the Colts do, with nobody. They don't have anybody receiver, you know what I mean? And so it's about scheme. It's about that stuff coming together and timing and cohesion and all of that stuff. And the Bucs just haven't had enough, right?
They're not going to have continuity until next year. Can they win? Yes. Do I think they're going to? No. I think they need continuity. I think they need another year together. I think the secondary has got to continue to grow up and grow as players, and I think that's still an issue. Raymond P says, how do you guys feel about Bruce Arians' press conference? Too blunt or needs to calm it down? I like it. I like his press
I don't mind the bluntness.
Yeah.
I just wish he told the truth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you're going to get coach speak from every coach, right? And certainly an old grizzled coach like Bruce Arians knows how to coach speak. He's had plenty of years to do it.
Right.
And perfect it.
But he's not even coach speak, Scott. He just like straight up makes stuff up. Like he literally said at the roughing the passer penalty at the end of the game cost him 3 minutes and 40 or about 3 minutes and 40 seconds at the end of the game. That was huge. I still don't believe that was a penalty. It's just not even true. Like it was like 1 minute and 41 seconds. Like go to the, I mean, like, I just don't know how do you go in and just like 3 minutes and 40 seconds? It's like, no, that's not right. Like, and so, and we've seen them like, oh, the running backs didn't really drop any passes. Oh, we dropped too many passes the next, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's coach speak is kind of like being very vague about the truth almost.
I think what it is alternate facts. I think that's what he's presenting. Some alternate facts. Buccaneer Bruce, my old Kansas City guy, says, was Carlton Davis available to the media yesterday? No, he was not. And see, here's another inside poker thing. Where COVID is really hurting us as journalists is we're not allowed in the locker room. And all of our access this year is done through Zoom calls. We don't get any face-to-face with any players, coaches, front office people, nothing. It's all done either over the phone, you get a one-on-one interview, or it's done via Zoom in kind of that group setting that you see after the game. So we don't get to pick and choose which players we want and get. We're at the mercy of what the public relations staff gets us, and they do a fine job, but we can't pick and choose. And so, in any other year, we would have been over at Carlton Davis's locker, huddled around him. What was it like defending Tyreek Hill, right? So I think this year, if you're looking for something that really favors the players, it's the media availafility.
Oh, and we never get anybody up there who hasn't played well, unless it's Brady. We always get the quarterback. So, but we never get any. It's always after the Rams game. Was it the Rams game? Lauren, like 3 guys played well, and we got William Golston, Jordan Whitehead, and I forget. Like it was like the 3 guys that anybody would have said, oh, they're the only guys that played well today, and the coaching staff just, the PR guys just picked them. So it's hard to get answers to stuff like that. Yeah, it sucks.
Yep. Let's go to another one here. When will Cook appear next on the pod?
We hope to be today, not today. He's not usually on Wednesday, but it is a bye week. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll try to get him on Wednesday or Thursday.
We've got Mark Schofield coming on Wednesday as a guest, and Greg Cosell coming on Thursday as a guest.
We need some more super chats if we're being honest here, right? Because all of that money is going towards Mark Cook's webcam. So
we need his camera upgraded for bring him on the podcast.
Exactly. Let's go through here. Have we wrapped up our questions for today?
There was one that was a good one. Where
okay.
Are all 3 of BA, Brady, and Leftwich back next season for the Bucs? Yes, they're all going to be back. I mean, like I said, the only way is if they like lose the last 4 games, teams with losing records, and they all fall. The offense just falls flat on its face. In which case, Leftwich would be the only one I think that really would be in trouble. But I just don't think that's going to happen. Like it's not like the Bucs have been a bad team this year. We gotta get away with that. Like they just lost 2 3-point games in a row. I mean, I know the Chiefs game could have been worse, but like to 2 of the better teams in the league. I know the Rams lost to the 49ers, but the Rams are good, and they just have a hard time with the 49ers, as a lot of teams do actually. And so, I just think that this is these 2 are going to be back, and it's about making it work to the best that they can possibly make it. And like I said, that stuff is in their wheelhouse. They can do it. It's just a matter of will they. They've migrated more that way under Brady than any quarterback before. It's been the stubbornness has been broken down more than before. It's not enough.
Agreed.
And there's still a lot of disjointed things between communication.
It's going to change during the bye week a little bit. You're going to see some more tweaks, and it's going to change even more so in the offseason when they have plenty of time to digest the entire season, rewatch film and break things down and really collaborate, because they didn't have that time this year. They just didn't. I mean, the first time Bruce Arians and his staff and Tom Brady really collectively sat down together was in August, right? It wasn't in April or May or June or July. It was August, and it was during a truncated training camp. So It's going to be better next year. It's good this year. That's the whole point. You're 7-5. You're on the verge of a playoff run. It's going to be good this year. It's going to be even better next year. So hang on, Bucs fans.
Raymond P wants to know if Jason Lice retweeted any of my tweets during this 1-3 stretch. No, he has not actually.
He's been a little silent.
Quiet on that front.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs would have won, if the Bucs would have come back and won that game, though, I would.
You had some ammunition for sure. Yeah, you would have had some ammunition.
Hey, that's risky. You got to play. You got to play the game. You got to play on the edge, man. I'm a big believer in it.
All right, so here's our last one. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Mylan asks, so y'all think Tom Brady will be the same next year? He'll be 44 next season. From a physical standpoint, I haven't seen any slowdown.
That's what I mean. That's why I don't know why people ask all that. I get it because of the age, but Tom Brady physically is fine as a quarterback. Yes. It's comfort in the offense. It's playing under. It's knowing where pressure's coming from. It's being on the same page with receivers, and it's accuracy in situations where we're a little bit unsure, but. Physically, mentally sharp.
He had a stretch of bad downfield passing. And yesterday, I thought, by and large, he hit a decent amount of those.
4 for 7 on 20+ yard throws, 4 for 7, and then one that went right past or through Evans' hands. So I mean, he was, that little disruption there in the middle of the season. For the most of the season, like I said, he's been a really good deep ball passer.
Brady loves to work. He loves the film room. He loves the practice field. He loves to practice. Tom Brady is a perfectionist. Okay, he's not one of these guys, let's just get to the game. No, he treats every and the player that reminds me of Tom Brady from that perspective was Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp loved Wednesday and Thursday and Friday as much as he did on Sunday. He just did. That's just how he was. He's wired that way. He loved the game of football. Tom Brady's the same way. So Tom Brady's going to love the OTAs, the mini camps, a full training camp, those preseason games that he didn't have the chance to really dive into with his coaching staff next year. And that's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Douglas wants us to know that it was a good show, even though he spent a lot of it angry. Took us 40 minutes to get to the first. Doug, you weren't even here for the first 25 minutes of the show. I don't even want to hear it.
And again, this has probably been 85 to 15% of comments versus questions. And we love you guys showing up. We love you guys.
Comments are great. Yeah.
The comments have been fantastic. And we love some of the back and forth between you guys. This is a great Buccaneer fan community. And we appreciate you guys being here for us every single time we throw out these Pewter Report podcasts. The next one, John, is going to be Wednesday.
Yep.
And then Thursday. Hit those guests one more time just for the latecomers.
Yeah, for sure. Mark Schofield, the quarterback expert, has covered Tom Brady for years, grew up a Patriots fan, and has followed Tom Brady throughout his career and scouted him throughout his career. He's going to have tons of insight on Tom Brady on Wednesday's pod, 4 p.m. live. You do not want to miss that one. Mark has been a good friend of mine for years. I learned so much from him. Half the thing, not half maybe, but some of the things you see me write about in Bucs Briefing and in other areas and talk about on Twitter, I'm running to him and saying, hey, am I seeing this right? Like, he's an ex-quarterback. He is way smarter than me. And I'm like, hey, am I seeing this right? Is this the situation? I've learned a ton from him. So you're not going to want to miss that. And then,
John, on Thursday, we've got Mr. Cosell coming on the Pewter Report podcast.
A lot of people remember this summer on my Bucs Briefing, I wrote about Mike Evans and Tom Brady and a bunch of skill players for the Bucs offense, scouting them from last season and then moving kind of forward to this season and how he might project them to go. And I got a ton of great insight from him. That was a phone interview with him, and now we're going to have him on the podcast. That dude just has so much knowledge and insight, and he's always willing to give you as much time as possible. I'm going to get everything I can out of him and try to ask him a bunch of good questions on Thursday. 4 p.m. We'll be live, and it's going to be a ton of fun. He's going to offer a lot of good insight into how this offense should look moving forward, and has looked this season, should look moving forward, and even into 2021. So it's going to be great stuff on the show. We're going to have a lot of fun. We appreciate you all. We appreciate the super chats and the subscriptions. Tell your friends and family, spread the word about the Pewter Report podcast. We are so close to hitting 2K. We gotta.
Dragonlope coming in with the super chat, wanting an extra 60 seconds. Just sent my resignation letter. Ready to dial in for some December disappointment. Haha. This a one and done playoff team at best. Well, we'll see.
On a low note. Come on. Jeez.
We do appreciate the super chat though. Thank you very much.
Dragonlope's always coming up clutch with the super chats and in the pod on a low note, but we gotta do it. So we appreciate y'all. We're excited to be back with y'all on Wednesday on the Pewter Report podcast. So Energized by our friends over at Celsius. Get you one of these, drink up on our day off. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday in another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.